Good morning, Emma. Today we're going to go over page 237. And you've got 4 questions to do on that page. I'm going to go through the same exact question, but with different numbers. So let's practice 7 times negative 10. So we see that the 7 has no sign. If there's no sign in front of it, we know it's positive. Okay, only the minus sign tells us that a number is negative, but if it's positive, we don't put a plus in front of it. So first of all, let's just multiply our numbers. 7 times 10, the pretty nice and easy one, we have 70. But then we need to know the rule about multiplying a positive number with a negative number. So if you multiply a positive number times a negative number, the answer will always be negative. And the same if we did it in reverse. If we multiply a negative number times a positive number, the answer will always be negative. If we have a positive number times a positive number, well, that's what you've been doing since 3rd grade, and that answer was always positive. Here's where it gets a little tricky. If you have a negative number times a negative number, it will also equal a positive number. So this is the rule right here. Make sure you write that down and keep that safe so you have that when you need it. So we have a positive plus a negative, which makes this a negative 70 for your answer. And I'm going to change my color for the next question. Okay, so now we have negative 12 times negative 3. So we have a negative times a negative. Let's look over here. Our answer is going to be a positive number. 12 times 3. And that should be one of our math facts. So I hope you got 36. If not, we could do 12 times 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. Okay. Now let's try negative 3 squared. I know this wasn't one of your homework assignments, but I want to make sure you know how to do it. So negative 3 squared is the same as writing, I'm just going to write it out. Oops, negative 3 times negative 3. Okay, so negative 3 squared just means we take whatever's inside the parentheses and we do it 2 times. Okay, so now we just go back to our first rule. We have a negative times a negative, which equals a positive. 3 times 3 is 9. So our answer is, ooh, let me erase that because that looks like a negative 9. And it's not a negative 9, it's just a positive 9. Sorry. I never won awards for my handwriting. Okay, so we have, so far we've done a positive times a negative, which is a negative times a negative, which is a positive. We did another negative times a negative, which is a positive. Now let's try, let's see. I'm going to do another exponent because that's what I've got written down here. So we've got negative 2. I'm going to change it to negative 2 cubed. So again, whatever's inside the parentheses, we're going to write that 3 times. Let me make a darker color here. So we have negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. Oh my goodness, 3 things that we have to multiply. So we're going to start with just 2 of them. Remember PEMDAS. Let me write down PEMDAS. So we start with parentheses first. Anything inside the parentheses has to be solved first. But right now our parentheses just have numbers inside of them, so there's really nothing that we can simplify inside the parentheses. Then we go to our exponents, which we're working on right now because 3 is an exponent and we've written it 3 times. Then we multiply or divide from left to right. And then we add or subtract from left to right. So right now, we're just going to focus on the first two numbers. We're going to get to this third one in a minute. So we have -2 times -2, a negative times a negative. Let's come back up here. A negative times a negative is a positive. So 2 times 2 is 4, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So we just write 4. Now we're going to bring down this part so we can continue solving our problem. Whoops. It would help if I wrote it correctly. So we have 4 times -2. 4 times -2. Again, my handwriting's not the best. 4 times -2. So we have a positive times a negative. We're going to look up here. A positive times a negative is always a negative. 4 times 2 is 8. So we have a -8 for our answer. All right. Now let's see if I can make some more space here. All right. We've got 2 more problems to practice. So we have -2 times -6 times -4. All right, so the same thing we did up there on our last question, we're going to break it down into 2 numbers at a time. We're going to get to this third number, but we remember with PEMDAS, we multiply or divide from left to right. So we're going to go with the first 2 numbers on the left, and then we're going to eventually get to the other numbers as we work our way across, kind of like our math sentence. Just like you read from left to right, math, you also read from left to right, even though we're not reading. So we have -2 times -6. A negative times a negative is a positive, very good, and 2 times 6 is 12. So we have 12, and now we're going to bring down that -4, and it was a multiplication, so we need to remember we keep that operation. So 12 times -4, a positive times a negative is a, you can go back up and look, a positive times a negative is a negative, and 12 times 4 is 48. All right, good job. We've got 1 more to do. And I'm sorry, I'm running out of space. So I'm going to draw a line. We're going to work over here. We've got -2 times -5 times +3. It doesn't change what we do first. We're just going to focus on those first 2 numbers, -2 times -5. So -2 times -5. A negative times a negative is a positive, and 2 times 5 is 10. Now we're going to bring down that multiply by 3. And 10 times 3, a positive times a positive is a positive. 10 times 3 is 30. All right, I hope that helps. Remember to review your chart. These are the rules, they do not change. Obviously, they get more complicated when you start adding 2 or 3 or 4 numbers. But if you break it down into 2 numbers at a time, the rules will always follow.